Kicking off the list at number 10, we have Ben Reilly. Created by Peter Parker's DNA, Ben Reilly is a Spider-Man clone created by the Jackal. He first appeared in The Amazing Spider-Man issue 149. Issue 410 shows us a much different version of Ben though. Carnage makes his way to this underground club. It's pretty fun, it's jazzy, everybody's dressed like a supervillain, so naturally everybody loves Carnage. They're like, wow, cool outfit. Love the claws, very realistic, we love it. Ben and Carnage fight it out, they throw each other through walls, all that good stuff, but when Ben gets too close, the symbiote decides to move over to the sticky side. Number 9. Scarlet Spider. During Minimum Carnage, Cletus Cassidy had returned to try and steal something from a NASA research center, but Scarlet Spider Kane Parker was there to save the day. He hasn't seen Carnage in years, but now he is ready. Mid-monologue, Kane leaps over and breaks Carnage's neck. He just turns it all the way around, just a 180. Bad times. Now of course this does absolutely nothing as Carnage turns his head right back and freaks out Kane, rightfully so, and then he stabs him with one of his tendrils. Carnage escapes using a Prometheus pit with Kane swearing that he's going to kill Carnage for what he's done. Are you sure about that, Kane? You kinda just got stabbed with a tendril, so I don't know. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up on the video, it does help us quite a bit. You're awesome. Thank you so much for your support. Now, before wasting any more time, let's get right back into this list. Number 8, Gwen Stacy. She first appeared in Ultimate Spider-Man 14. She's the daughter of Captain John Stacy, and her and Peter get close when Gwen straight up pulls a knife on a classmate who was bullying Parker. She's pretty wild in the Ultimates, as are most of our characters. She's pretty conflicted as well. I mean, her mother ran off with this random dude. She feels totally depressed because of it, and would stop by Peter's house to talk, vent, talk things out. Her father died when he was killed by a burglar dressed as Spider-Man, so she lives with Peter and May now. It actually causes Peter and MJ to break up temporarily. It's kind of a little romantic rift. A little bit of a love triangle, a lot of drama going on in that household. Very Big Brother vibes. But she learned eventually that Peter was Spider-Man, and she was upset, but she understood, even making peace with MJ along the way, so things are going fine. And after all that pain and agony and stress, later that night, after telling MJ not to worry about them, she was then killed by Carnage, who was looking for Peter. Peter felt bad here, obviously, because he had allowed Connors to use his genetic material to experiment on in the first place. If you know Peter Parker, you're pretty much doomed, so if you see anyone doing any of this, just don't be friends with them. Number 7, Iron Man. Carnage 2010 issue 1 kicks off with Tony getting flipped off at a medical supply expo by Michael Hall. He's showing off a prosthetic arm that is controlled by a chip in his mind, so he's having an annoying start to the night, you could say that. But then he sees Doppelganger chasing an armored truck and sedan. This guy never gets a break. Okay, cut to issue 3, he faces an even crazier webbed monster. So Spider-Man volunteers to go after Carnage first, claiming that he at least knows the symbiote, but on the other hand, Tony is literally a walking tank. So Carnage grows wings and flies off. He doesn't even swing yet. But then he finds a window and attacks Carnage, and in the final issue, he pulls out the big guns. Literally pulls out everything he has. Even with the added ammunition, Iron Man is getting slammed down over and over and over again. His suit is at 35% integrity, even tipping him off that catastrophic failure is imminent. Well, you can't win this time with words, Tony. You just need more guns, apparently. Number 6, Gwenom. King in Black Gwenom vs. Carnage. We meet Earth 65's version of Mary Jane, much more of a redhead this time around, you could say. Gwen met MJ in grade 6. They made a band called the Mary Janes, and sometimes Gwen had to skip jam sessions to go and fight the lizard. So MJ felt sad. She felt like her best friend was bailing on this dream of being a famous band and touring the world. Their friendship is really put to the test when Null took over MJ and was named after the last Psycho, Carnage. She was made into a literal monster, and her only goal was to get the symbiote from Gwen and then take it back for Null to study. Carnage is great this time around. I mean, MJ turns an electric guitar into a battle axe. It's fun. The action looks beautiful. I could watch these two fight for hours. Things take a turn when Gwen comes face to face with Null himself. Carnage continues to overpower Gwenom, even leaving unscathed. Gwen and Carnage meet up once again, but it's at Madison Square Garden this time around, because Carnage is now making her own band. It takes a rock off in order to free MJ, but the first couple of fights here easily go to MJ's Carnage. Number 5, Scorn. Scorn first appeared in Carnage issue 5. Michael Hall used the symbiote, combined it with technology, so now you can create and control limbs, like the guy I mentioned earlier. Sounds pretty remarkable. Amputees had a solution now, which is awesome, but the solution was the Carnage symbiote in a way, so of course it all went south. The symbiote escaped its containment cell and bonded to Tanis Neves and used her to rescue Cletus Cassidy. But that symbiote was taken from Shriek, so when Knives was close to Shriek, she reached out and a new symbiote was born. Hashtag Scorn. Scorn linked up with the Mercury team and Carnage USA to stop Carnage from taking over a town in Colorado. I mentioned that story in part 1 of this list. But in Web of Venom, Carnage Born, Scorn and its host became a cult leader, dedicating their time to retrieving the corpse of Cletus Cassidy, who the cult viewed as Null's prophet or whatever. Scorn resurrected Carnage with a sample of the symbiote, and as soon as he arrived, Scorn was, well, he was no longer needed at that point, which is sad, but that's the harsh reality of it. That's why you don't become a villain, guys. It's just, you're gonna get used. Number 4, Agent Anti-Venom. Go Down Swinging was written by Dan Slott. It's a 4-part storyline that kicks off with Norman Osborn finding a new power. Yeah, he finds the Carnage symbiote, well, steals it rather, from an abandoned S.H.I.E.L.D. warehouse, and when it bonds with Norman, the agenda of course changes. Now he's the Red Goblin, and now he wants to do nothing else but kill. So Flash Thompson, Anti-Venom, rescues J. Jonah Jameson from being kidnapped, and when Peter goes head to head with the Goblin, he wins. Yeah, surprisingly, he even says some last words as well. He thanks Peter for pushing him this entire time, being the drive that he needed, because a man is only as good as his enemies. Okay, interesting, Peter won, this is great. We can start clapping, I think, yeah? Peter says he wished he could have saved Norman, and then he starts to laugh. Yeah, Norman starts to laugh, his blood starts to move around as well. This is all just a lie, it's all a bit. Red Goblin is born. Basically, you got Carnage now with pumpkin bobs. It's pretty messy and terrifying. Anti-Venom was forced to save his friends or kill the Goblin, so he died a hero. His suit was barely attached anymore at that point, but Flash still stuck by Peter's side until the last moment. Number 3, Miles Morales. In Absolute Carnage, Eddie and Dylan are trying to lay low, but Carnage pushing them in front of a train changed that vibe up real quick. Carnage is literally seconds away from ending Brock, but that third rail held him off just a touch longer. Eddie knows at this point that Carnage is still alive, that electric shock therapy didn't really do much, but they used that time to get out of there instead of asking questions. Fair. While catching up with Spider-Man trying to think of a plan here, the news showed this massive gravesite that was just discovered. So Carnage is trying to find everybody who once was a host for the symbiote in order to obtain their codices. Now this Carnage cult was responsible for the mass graves, and in the next issue, Carnage now has this dark army with him, this horde. He's much more powerful than ever, living in the spire underneath the streets of New York. So comfortable. His rent's probably so high. When Carnage is about to take over the Scorpion, Miles jumps in to save the day, punching Carnage's head right off of his body for a moment, and then he goes and then comes back, but it's still cool. But a moment is all he gets in this fight, as the next page we see Miles fall under Dark Carnage's control. Number 2, Wolverine. In Spider-Man and X-Men issue 3, we see Wolverine go toe-to-toe with Carnage. It's a nice fun 90s crossover. Wolverine is still rocking the bone claws, which is cool, until, you know, Carnage eats them. Carnage likes the taste. I mean, to be fair, it's probably good for you, it's probably healthy. Pages later, Wolverine strikes again, and it's a fun time because Carnage is like, what the hell? I thought I literally just ate those things on your hand. What's going on? Well, Carnage, you now have an unlimited snack. Just keep Logan around and you're all set. And finally, number 1, Captain America and Co. During the Maximum Carnage event in part 11 out of 14, other superheroes team up to try and stop this maniac. We've heard about him just annihilating people for 2 lists now, so yeah, it takes a lot to come in. Captain America, Firestar, Iron Fist, and Deathlock all head to New York City. They're fighting Doppelganger, Shriek, it's pretty amazing. Even Cloak and Dagger get in on this plan in Maximum Carnage. It's a huge event. Everybody ends up losing to Carnage and his gang though, it's wild. So the fighting is more so left to Venom and Spider-Man, but we have to mention the rest of these guys, especially to close out a part 2. They did a lot of the heavy lifting, and they got punched in the face quite a bit during this whole story. I think at the end of the day, we just need to avoid Cletus Cassidy in any form, in any story. I'll say that. Kicking off the list at number 10, The Man of Steel, Superman. Superman Batman Volume 1, Issue 44. The Strange Favor storyline begins with a movie shoot. How exciting, I wonder what they're filming. Well, they're filming a Superman Batman movie called World's Finest, which has a pretty good ring to it. I'm already intrigued. It feels like Tropic Thunder almost at first. These other guys are playing these superheroes. Batman's being played by a former Bond actor in that universe, Jason Wish, and he's going for it. His eyes are all watery. He's explaining this made-up origin, and Superman offside, like the Superman and the Batman, are watching them film from afar, and Batman isn't really into this whole idea. He doesn't like how they don't know his true story, and now they're just making stuff up. But Superman reassures them that it's only because they're interested in the mysterious bat. Out of nowhere, Livewire comes in, who's almost as evil as LimeWire. almost. And then she takes Jason as hostage, demanding that she receives half of his $12 million pay, which is a pretty big chunk of money. Robert Pattinson's only getting $5 million for the next Batman, but he's getting 20 for Batman 2, so it's okay. So the Superman flies down and intervenes, and then he gets surprised when the prop kryptonite on set gets blasted with electricity and in turn explodes, leaving pieces of Superman's only weakness stuck in his face. I love how they have real kryptonite on set. That's good, that's commitment. It's like when they use real bones instead of props in the original Poltergeist movie. What could possibly go wrong, right? Number 9, the Wasp. We'll get the appetite going right off the bat here. Okay, Janet Van Dyne, aka the Wasp, first appeared in comics in Tales to Astonish issue 44. Genetically engineered by Dr. Hank Pym, Ant-Man, with the help of Pym particles and biosynthetic wings, now Janet was one of the founding members of the Avengers. Not too shabby. She could generate bioelectric blasts from her hand, knocking down even the fiercest of foes. But when the Blob gets a hold of her in the Ultimatum storyline, her sting just wouldn't cut it. The story comes from the Ultimates, which is already just a darker take on all of our characters and all those stories, and in it we see Earth's mightiest meeting their violent end. As for the Wasp, during the flood in New York City, she ended up being separated from the team, and when they finally found her, it was too late. She had become a midnight snack. Hank decides to get payback in a similar manner. Giant Man then grabs the Blob and Ozzy Osbourne's his head right off. Payback is gross, but necessary. And before we continue on with this list, let's brighten the mood a little bit. Maybe go and hit that thumbs up. I don't know, get some spirits back to normal. Also, it helps the channel out so much. You're the best. Thank you so much. Back to this dark list. Number 8, Batman. Coming from the 1993 Batman Nightfall storyline, we get to meet Bane in a terrifying way. He literally broke Batman. The Beast started by making Batman's worst day come to life as he freed every villain in Arkham Asylum, so now Batman's gotta try and round up all those psychopaths, which is already exhausting, and Batman's weaker now, mentally and physically. And when Bane goes to the Batcave because yes, he knows Batman's secret identity, he beats Bruce down, and when the moment is right, he lifts the Caped Crusader above his head and drops him down onto his knee, breaking his back. Now this was a huge moment in the comics. When Batman goes down for the count, the mantle was then passed along to Azrael. And we just broke down a bunch of alternate versions of Batman in the last week or two, so make sure you go and check out one of those 3 lists as well after you're done here. Batman has had quite the run in comics. Interesting time. Number 7, Spider-Man. Coming in hot from the Amazing Spider-Man 700.3, The Black Lodge Part 1. We open in Queens, New York. It's past 2 in the morning. Peter is regretting having seconds at Aunt May's. He's just trying to go home, but now he's got to go face to face with Firebrand. Peter even realizes that already this fight has gone on for too long. Usually this would be a piece of cake, but Peter ate too much cake. He was actually too full. He was tired. Now this is tedious. And then when Firebrand gets a hold of Peter's neck, it really starts to hurt. Firebrand unloads everything that he has, and then he sees Peter's suit start to melt and then rip apart. It's actually really brutal and pretty gory. By the time help arrives, he's unrecognizable. The cleanup crew literally thinks he's another supervillain. They're like, get him out of here, this burnt, crispy man. Firebrand 2.0, whoever you are, bye. Peter received 3rd-degree burns on 80% of his body. Aunt May, where's the aloe? We need some aloe stat. Number 6, the Hulk. Mark Millar's Old Man Logan begins in Volume 3 of Wolverine at issue 66, and this is now a future where supervillains have won. Sads. Hulk and She-Hulk had kids. Weird. The Hulklings, who would beat the crap out of you if you didn't pay rent, because basically everybody had their own territory, so Logan had to pay up. Hawkeye, who is also much older and now also blind, needed Logan's assistance to get across the country and deliver a secret package. This was a way Logan can make some of that rent money, so perfect, let's do it. Now when they get back from their trip, things have progressed in an awful way. Hulk Gang took out Logan's entire family because, well, they were bored, of course. They're a little messed up in the head if you didn't already piece that together. So Logan dishes out some payback. No more games, no more talking. Logan's here to now get this done. Logan gets Banner right through the old chest plate, but we all know what happens next. He freaks out, he hulks out rather, and then he eats Logan. If you can't beat him, eat him, I guess. Now you'd think this would for sure be the end of it, but that's when Logan pops out from inside Banner. After what's gonna happen to Wolverine near the end of this list, it's nice to see him come out on top, or just come out of a body in general, that's fun. Number 5, Jason Todd. Of course this is going to be on the list. A Death in the Family is a 4-part storyline written by Jim Starlin and published in 1988. It contains perhaps one of the biggest, darkest moments in DC Comics history because we see the Joker beat the second Robin, Jason Todd. And when I say beat him, I mean he beat him with a crowbar and then used an explosive for good measure. He was a goner, for sure. And also, it was your parents' fault. Pause this video, go yell at them, come back, like it, click play. Yeah, DC left it up to readers how this story ends for Robin. Nowadays, fans are coming together on Twitter to see director cuts of movies that haven't even been released yet. So it's a little better now. We have a bit more of a squad. The actual beatdown, of course, is awful, but emotionally the Joker destroys the boy Wonder as well. He used Jason Todd's birth mother, he blackmailed her in order to get closer to Jason, and it worked. Betrayed by his birth mother, and then the Joker too killed her. Double whammy, triple whammy. 4 whammies, I don't know, all the whammies. Number 4, Green Arrow. Green Lantern, Green Arrow, issue 85. Let's talk about it. The first few pages, we see Oliver Queen walking at night trying to get home when all of a sudden some punks, some fools try and rob him. Now this is a day in the park for most of our superheroes. Now it's not like he was tired or maybe he didn't see it coming like Peter, he ate too much cake. He actually was in a bad mood. He had lady troubles, he was ready to fight. He was like, okay, I'm looking for this. You guys picked the wrong guy, let's go. He's like getting warmed up. He was feeling good. And then a guy pulled out a crossbow, because you know, all those thugs that carry crossbows through the city, and then Ollie gets shot right through the shoulder with an arrow. Irony at its finest. Number 3, Green Lantern. Now this one comes from Justice League issue 5. It's been referred to as the Punch since. In this comic, Batman comes in to take over the Justice League International, and Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, doesn't share the same enthusiasm as the rest of the team. For more than one issue, he makes it very clear that he doesn't like this new leader. So naturally, this conflict was growing, and although Batman was obviously a better fit for the role, he challenged Batman to a fight without the use of his power ring, and then Batman proceeded to knock him out with one punch. Of course, he's Batman, and without the ring, you're just a guy. You're just a regular Guy Gardner. Blue Beetle even jumped up. He got pumped, and he started yelling, one punch, one punch, one punch, just adding insult to injury, literally. This is a great moment, an even greater lesson, but Green Lantern getting knocked out by a human punch shouldn't have happened in the first place. Don't start fights you can't win without the only thing that makes you win those fights. I don't know, just my advice. Number 2, Martian Manhunter. In Final Crisis 1, John Jones' Martian Manhunter gets trapped in a prison. See, he originally went there undercover as John Jones in his human form and would regularly report back to Batman. That's when the villains decided to break free and then he was left behind. It's not looking good at this point, because Human Flame had now given the villain Libra instructions to kill Martian Manhunter. So Libra went and he did so. He stabbed Martian Manhunter with a staff right in front of the entire staff, the entire secret society of supervillains, and then upon his death he returned back to his Martian form, and in his final moments he still managed to send that message back to the Justice League. Not even death will stop this guy's plans. The Justice League held his funeral on his home planet, Mars, with Superman giving the eulogy. His final moments were expanded on in the Final Crisis Requiem storyline, teaching us more about his homeworld and the inhabitants of it. You can find this in Justice League Volume 2 in issues 6 and 7. And finally, number 1, my personal favorite, Wolverine. I mentioned Wolverine getting something bad. This is it. Now we're going to talk about it. This next one comes from Punisher Volume 6, Issue 17, appropriately titled Aim Low, written by Garth Ennis. So we find Wolverine with his face, well, without a face. His face is gone at this point. He got his face blown off by the Punisher, and you'd think that would be pretty bad, but it of course gets so much worse. Frank Castle fixes his aim a little bit lower and then pulls the trigger, reassuring Logan that they'll grow back. Frank was trying to get Wolverine out of the way, and this put him down for a bit, definitely, but he's still not out for the count just yet. Never turn your back on the knucklehead. Wolverine is literally crawling towards the Punisher now. He's like, shoot me, bomb me, cut me up, I don't care, I'm just gonna keep coming at you. Well, it's kinda hard to move when there's a steamroller on top of you, no? The fact that he did it slowly too, starting with the feet and then slowly moving it up to his head and then putting it in park when it was on his head, I can't even fathom what this would feel like. I can't pull a hangnail some days. Like a steamroller, what kind of Austin Powers way to go out is that?
Number 10, Captain Carrot. These two fought it out in the two-parter Convergence Harley Quinn. After all, it would take a melding of multiversal realities in order for these two to even be able to fight one another, as Captain Carrot hails from the alternate Earth of Earth 26. While this fight might not seem like anything to celebrate, it should be noted that Captain Carrot is actually pretty powerful. He possesses one of the most epic powers, I think, of all time, that of cartoon physics. I don't know about you, but being able to defy the law of physics that govern matter and molecules molecules in our world sounds pretty powerful to me. While the physical kind of fight came to a stalemate, in the end it would appear as though Harley won without really meaning to when she offered Captain Carrot snacks from her friend Poison Ivy's garden. In other words, those carrots are probably all kinds of toxic. Although Harley also joined Captain Carrot in a quick snack, the poison would not actually affect her, as thanks to Ivy she has total immunity. Captain Carrot, however, looked like he wasn't doing great. He was like, ugh, poisonous garden. Number 9. Damian Wayne. Harley Quinn made quick work of Damian Wayne, aka Robin, in the Harley Quinn animated series. Here Harley was looking to make a name for herself as a supervillain and leader of her own criminal gang, striking out on her own. She wanted to take Joker's spot as Batman's top nemesis, and even managed to steal Batman's Batmobile in hopes of baiting him out. Unfortunately for Harley, it wasn't Bats who answered the call, but instead Bats Jr., aka Damian Wayne. Harley was very disappointed and refused to even really fight Damian, despite him claiming that he was a more than worthy nemesis for her, being trained by birth by the League of Assassins. Harley defeated him far too easily, hanging him by his cape on a meat hook in the warehouse that they were in. Although Damian of course later embellished the story and insisted that Harley and he were official nemeses. Also, I love Damian Wayne in the Harley Quinn animated series. I think it's my favorite incarnation of Damian Wayne. Damian Wayne fans, please don't hate me. I mean that with the utmost respect. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more lists like it, more Harley lists, yes, let's have it happen, be sure to let us know by giving this video a thumbs up. Also comment below with your favorite Harley issues or Harley stories. Number 8. Black Canary. Although Black Canary ultimately prevents the fight from coming to a close in the Injustice universe, Harley is definitely about to win when this happens, and would have been crowned victor. I mean, after all, she is mid-swing with her hammer just coming down almost on Black Canary's head there. However, Black Canary at the moment of her demise halts the fight as she's about to be sick to her stomach. Harley, recognizing Black Canary's morning sickness as a symptom of her being pregnant, decides to call the whole thing off, refusing to fight someone who is pregnant due to her own history. Although a moment ago, Harley was ready to smash Black Canary's head in with her giant hammer, now the two women bond over their shared experience. It turns out that while Black Canary is pregnant with the now deceased Green Arrow's child, Harley was once pregnant and gave birth to the Joker's child in secret. Honestly, this is a really fun fight that also just turns into a really heartfelt moment, which is kind of great. Number 7. Birds of Prey. Never mind just beating Black Canary, at one point Harley Quinn manages to evade the entire Birds of Prey team, including Renee Montoya in the Black Label limited series, Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey. This comic gives us an alternate story for what would happen with their team up in comparison to the DCEU film. Instead of tracking down a diamond for Black Mask so that she can avoid him killing her, here Harley is aiming to take down her enemies in Gotham and ends up teaming up with the Birds of Prey to do so. But it turns out initially, neither they or the GCPD want Harley in Gotham, as she's a liability. After her brief team up with the Birds of Prey in issue number 1, she ends up captured by Renee Montoya, but gives her and the birds the slip in issue number 2, escaping custody with a secret ally by tunneling out of a restaurant bathroom. This iteration of the team includes Black Canary, Huntress, and Cassandra Cain, who we learn is actually filling in for Barbara Gordon, who's out with a broken leg. Also, if you saw the Birds of Prey film, and regardless of how you felt about it, this is a comic you should read. It's really funny, it's really great. I think it's really fun. Everything Black Label is usually pretty good. Usually. Number 6. Shazam. Another hero who Harley ends up taking on and surprisingly defeating in Injustice, we are talking about Shazam. I know, pretty impressive. Harley ends up fighting Shazam as both are on opposite sides of the superhero conflict, with Shazzy siding with Supes and Harl's allying herself with Batman. The two fight in year 5, but also fought previously in year 3, with Harley taking full advantage of Shazam's sweet naivete, tossing her hammer at him, which it turned out was actually a bomb. That time around, the hammer explodes in his face, knocking him out. Number 5. Green Lantern. There was some interference on this fight, which as you may have guessed by now usually happens with Harley, but regardless, Harley was definitely in the process of winning when the interference really helped her to crush her enemy, who in this case was Green Lantern Hal Jordan. That's right, Harley won in a cosmic arm wrestling match against Hal. In Harley's little black book in issue number 2, the two characters square off when Harley, after being outbid for a genuine Green Lantern ring online, instead gets her hands on something better, a black and red lantern Lantern ring. How fitting. It is a combined ring formed from both colors of lanterns. In the end, Red and Black Lantern Harley defeats Hal only to have her ring taken. Hal knocked out, and is of course kind of forced to don his Green Lantern ring in order to help save the day. Another fun team up for the books, or the little black book, I suppose I should say. Number 4. Batman. Harley Quinn has beaten Batman on more than one occasion, but for me, one of her most iconic victory moments comes from the Batman animated series, when Harley successfully traps Batman for the Joker and is planning to basically waste him. Of course, although Harley almost successfully ends Bat's life, he manages to prey on her insecurities regarding her relationship with the Joker. He convinces Harley that the Joker will be upset with her if she just wastes him without contacting him or telling him anything about it. So she calls him up, and then when he arrives, it's revealed that Batman was actually right. In provoking a fight between the two villains, Batman is able to escape, but in this scenario, if Joker hadn't been involved, Harley would have likely been completely successful in executing her Puddin's plan. This victory not only proves Harley's might next to Joker, but also is a heartbreaking one, as it illustrates how harmful her relationship with the Joker is, and how its toxicity also succeeds in often holding her brilliance and her individualism hostage. Number 3. Wonder Woman. Harley's Little Black Book really is a treat of a mini team-up series. If you're a Harley fan and you haven't read this one yet, or at least dipped your toe in, I highly recommend it. Back in issue number 1 of the series, Harley manages to defeat Wonder Woman by catching her unawares and successfully kidnapping her. Of course, Harley actually is aiming to do this for Wonder Woman's own good, and is in fact a big fan of hers, as we find out. So it isn't a malicious defeat at all. Still though, using sleeping gas, Harley manages to incapacitate Wonder Woman and swaps clothes with her in an attempt to impersonate her. In the end, this results in a glorious team up of the two badass ladies fighting side by side. Number 2. Superman. We don't really know how, and she didn't do it alone, but in the Black Label limited series, Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, in issue number 1, we open up on Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn being served by Superman. Together they seem to have made him their prisoner by threatening the life of Jimmy Olsen, and Superman is waiting on them in return for his whereabouts so that he can run off and save Jimmy. Of course, it all turns out that this is part of a dream, but it's a fun sequence and could actually be based on real events in this Black Label reality. Black Label comics typically happen outside of continuity, just FYI. Whether or not this was real though, Harley also took on Supes in a boxing match and won in Harley's Little Black Book in the second to last issue in issue 5. Number 1. The Trinity. If you thought the Man of Steel was too much for Harley Quinn to take on, obviously you would be wrong. And you'd actually be super wrong about that, as Harley has not only taken on Superman multiple times, but also in one fight managed to take on Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman all in one go. The holy trinity of DC supers, if you will. This all went down in Heroes in Crisis, when the superhero trio was trying to track Harley down as they believed she was behind the mass murder that went down at the Sanctuary. Harley made quick work of the team, using Batman's contingency plans even against his allies, and the team's love and affection for one another to her advantage.
Kicking off the list at number 10. Captain America. Wolverine Origins began back in 2006. It ran for 50 issues, and it kicks off with Wolverine on a mountaintop with the Muramasa blade. Now he's had all these memories returned to him from the events of House of M, and now he wants a little payback on all those responsible for messing with his life. He took on Nuke in the Vietnam fields, and then in issue 4, Captain America joins the battle. They take turns bashing each other in, metal slashing around, they're just punching each other in the head. It's good fun. Cap gets the upper hand on Logan when he crushes the tendons in Wolverine's forearms, but a mighty kick to the hematoma lump on Steve's thigh buys Wolverine quite a bit of time to recover. Cap catches up and the fighting resumes, but Wolverine has the blade this time around, and an injured Captain America stands no chance. If it wasn't for the X-Men intervening at the last second, Cap would have lost a lot harder. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up, that would be awesome. You know, it helps us out so much, and then in turn we can help you out and bring you that nerdy goodness. So hit that thumbs up, you guys are the best. Back to the list. Number 9, the Hulk. He's fought the green guy quite a few times, okay? And for this one, it's not really a fight per se. Savage Wolverine began back in March 2013 from Frank Cho. The series ran for 23 issues. Now when a S.H.I.E.L.D. Geological Department vessel with Shauna the She-Devil crashes onto the Forbidden Island, Wolverine wakes up now in Savage Land. His claws are immediately out, as they should be, and this comic wastes no time. A Velociraptor attacks him right away. What a rude awakening. He saves a SHIELD agent, takes off a head or two, and then heads back to the ship. Shauna the She-Devil greets him with joy and then fills him in. She was assisting a team of surveyors in mapping out the western part of the Savage Land when all their gear went dark, just like that. Some machine in the land's center was creating a dampening field, so now they're all stuck there. Shauna gets killed, but later on resurrected by the Neanderthals. Wolverine continues to find this machine, but he has no idea that she came back to life. But when Shauna meets up with Amadeus Cho in issue 3, some new info comes to light. That machine is also powering the jail cell for a powerful ancient alien in the mountain. And Wolverine is about to shut it down. How lovely. He takes on some giant gorillas, and when he gets close to the machine, the Hulk shows up. They're about to talk it out when one of those giant gorillas returns and then bites the Hulk. They fight it out a bit, and then Wolverine jumps in and quickly ends the action with one swift shink to the brain. That ought to do it. Number 8, Cyclops. The X-Men Schism storyline from writer Jason Aaron comes a 5-part story that begins with Wolverine acting as Cyclops' bodyguard at an international arms control conference in Switzerland. Mid-speech, Kid Omega returns, and he makes everybody start spilling all their horrible, deep dark secrets. Cyclops and Logan are immune to this because, you know, superpowers. Sentinels are soon deployed worldwide, and a new Black King of the Hellfire Club is elected. Cade Kilgore. Cade's first plan of attack is to surprise the X-Men at the opening of a mutant history museum, and then the world is chaos. The only mutant left standing is the young Ida Okonkwo. Wolverine tells her to run, but Cyclops argues for her to stay as she's the only one that could possibly save everybody there. Ida ends up taking out the Hellfire henchmen, she saves the people, but Cyclops and Wolverine are arguing over if this was the right call to make. As the Sentinel approaches Utopia, Logan is imploring Scott to join the other kids and leave the island, because he plans to blow it to smithereens. They're not seeing eye to visor, so Scott makes it personal to get Logan's attention. He says out of the blue, "She never loved you, by the way. You always frightened her." Harsh words. So Wolverine snaps back, suggesting that if Jean Grey was there at that moment, she would be more afraid of Cyclops. Scott responds by blasting Wolverine's face pretty much off. Wolverine, Sans face at this point, still is on top of Scott, laying into him. I would say this is a tie at this point, but seeing how they look after the X-Men save them, Scott's in much worse condition. That's why you don't melt off Logan's face, man. It doesn't end well. The guy can heal. Just stop. Number 7, Quicksilver. After Quicksilver took the keys out of Cyclops' ride in Ultimate X-Men issue 3, you would think he had successfully thwarted the X-Men. All he has to do now was evade a hefty optic blast and hit the road. That was no problem seeing how he's the fastest man on the planet, but being the fastest doesn't mean you always have the upper hand. Sometimes you have to be the smartest. Wolverine was waiting for this moment to surprise Pietro. Logan just stood there with his claws out, he stood perfectly still, and Quicksilver ran right into him. When he asked Wolverine what he was doing here, Wolverine responded, wouldn't you like to know? And then he slashed him down to the ground. And then Quicksilver wasn't seen for quite a bit. Number 6, Silver Surfer. The first time we see zombie Wolverine was in Ultimate Fantastic Four issue 22. He got bit by zombie Hawkeye and Captain America, so his healing factor wasn't enough to save the day. Now when the Silver Surfer came poking around, everybody wanted a piece. Literally, they were so hungry, and this guy was like the holy grail of snacks. Hulk took the first bite, and soon after, Logan and the rest of the team dug in. They all then got cosmic powers and a full belly. Nice. Logan's idea of peeling back the candy coating and getting into the tender morsels inside surely helped put the plan into motion. Also, ew. Number 5, Iron Fist. In New Avengers issue 15, a friendly bout between Iron Fist and Wolverine is underway. No claws, no fist, no problem. It's a fun training exercise that draws readers' attention and even other heroes in the issue as well. Wolverine is encouraging Iron Fist to tap out, but it's no use. Wolverine knocks him straight to the ground, saying he was only at a 6 this entire time. Out of breath, Iron Fist replies that he too was only at a 3, so Out of breath, Iron Fist replies unconfidently that he too was only at a 3. Okay. I don't want to be around either of these guys when they're at a 1. No thanks. Number 4, Age of Apocalypse Cyclops. Doesn't matter which universe you're indulging in, odds are Wolverine and Cyclops will go at it at some point. In Age of Apocalypse, Earth 295, Cyclops was mad that Wolverine was trying to get his girlfriend. Classic bro stuff. Similar vibes to the Ultimate Universe, only this ends much worse for Scott. When Jean chose to be with Logan instead of Scott, and as if that wasn't already good enough for Wolverine, he decided to slash out one of Cyclops' eyes, truly leaving him a Cyclops. Nothing like having that reminder on your face. What a harsh way to get dumped. Number 3. Namor. Namor the Submariner, Volume 1, Issue 24, titled Green War, was written by John Byrne, and it features Namor returning to Earth to investigate a Hilrithri invasion, which was the sentient plant race. Now they got Wolverine and forced him to fight Namor. Even on page we're told Namor's strength is far greater than Wolverine's, but Logan has speed and therefore gets the upper hand. The fight was interrupted by the Sorcerer Master Khan, who took out the plant dudes and brought Wolverine back to normal. But if this had continued, Wolverine would have kept slashing and kept healing. No water guns would have helped you this time, Namor. Number 2. Ultimate Cyclops. Ultimate Wolverine gets pretty jealous, and he takes things to a new height, literally, when he discovers that Jean Grey truly loves Cyclops. So Logan, now there was a deep rift growing between the two of them. So Charles was like, hey, why don't the both of you just go to Savage Land, work your stuff out, have some bro time, maybe become best friends, I don't know. They did not work it out or become best friends, at first. See, what initially happened was Wolverine let Cyclops fall to his death off a cliff just so he can get Jean back. That's like some Lion King teen drama stuff, it's wild. Cyclops survived and then exposed Wolverine to the crew and then made him feel horrible about what he'd done, even letting Logan stay on the team. What a weird punishment. So Wolverine ended up changing his ways and becoming a leader, eventually becoming a role model for the younger X-Men, being friends with Cyclops later on. All it took was letting him fall to his death first. That's it. And finally, number 1, Shang-Chi. We're all counting down the days to see the newest MCU hero hit the big screen. Shang-Chi was first introduced to readers back in 1973, Marvel Special Edition. Since then, he's earned himself a spot on the Avengers and of course has appeared in other comics from time to time, like in X-Men Volume 2, Issue 62, titled Games of Deceit and Death. The X-Men seek out the help of Shang-Chi to take down Sebastian Shaw, but in comic book fashion, a little scuffle was to be had first. Wolverine compliments the punk on his first blow, even telling him that the first blood is his. But when you throw down with Wolverine, you throw down with the best there is. Wolverine has him pinned down and he's ready to finish off Shang-Chi, but luckily Storm came in and just settled it. What an exciting way to meet the X-Men, damn.
Coming in number 10, we've got The Thing. The beefiest, brawniest, burliest, surliest member of the Fantastic Four doesn't often lose in a battle of might. Wits could be another thing, and when it comes to speed and timing, things could end poorly too. But on most days, there isn't going to be anyone stronger than Benjamin Grimm. After being hit with some wild cosmic rays, his body underwent some crazy changes. His skin became rough and rock-like, taking on an orangey hue and becoming near impenetrable. His toughness and density are through the roof, making him very hard to hurt. Along with his inbuilt armor, he also has a whole lot of additional wicked physical traits. Based on strength alone, he's one of the most powerful characters going. In fact, most consider him a consistent and classic rival to the Hulk. Incredible stamina, durability, and sensory adaptation round out his legendary bulk, and he technically is immortal if he chose not to revert to his human form every year. He doesn't age, can't really get hurt, and packs quite a wallop. In fact, after standing toe-to-toe with the mighty Green Mutant many times, the Thing has indeed definitively won against the Hulk before. So how does he manage to lose a fight? Well, you can't win them all. When the Hulk heads to New York to get revenge on the Avengers, the Fantastic Four is waiting for him. Ben Grimm hops out in front and takes on the Hulk, and the battle is pretty evenly matched. However, at the end of the massively destructive fight, the Hulk reigns supreme. The Thing collapses, totally wiped, and the Hulk is able to move right along. Dang, and we thought that incredible stamina would go on forever. Maybe next time, right? Coming in number 9, we've got Mark Grayson. This one's a bit of a bummer, don't you think? A burgeoning young hero getting his ass beat by his own father. The father that seemed to promise to protect the Earth from any threat? Such is the life of a Viltrumite. Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, was just getting a handle on his powers. He'd realized how strong he truly could be, but his dad, Omni-Man, was definitely stronger. But that's not too big a deal, right? Papa Nolan is gonna stick around and defend the Earth too, yeah? Teach Mark the ways of being a hero, maybe hit some sweet dance moves to a song called Hot Milk. Wrong. Omni-Man is actually evil and looking to conquer as many planets as possible. Damn, dude. When Mark attempts to stop him after he kills a plethora of supers, Omni-Man lays an absolute beatdown on his son. It is super brutal, my goodness. Coming in number 8, we've got John Stewart. One of Earth's Green Lanterns, John Stewart is blessed with all the powers one would expect. As leader of the Green Lantern Corps and a member of its honor guard, he's quite the formidable fighter. Renowned for his sharpshooting and building skills, not many can hold a candle to this hero. However, he isn't perfect, and all of the powers in the world won't help you if you get too cocky. The classic tale of human hubris. Nobody's immune to it, no way. While working with Martian Manhunter to contain the anti-life equation, they realized they'd need to save the planet of Xanshi. The folks there were slowly being poisoned, and to make matters worse, the planet was laden with bombs that were set to blow. John, thinking that he was super powerful and unstoppable, decided to fly an injured Martian Manhunter to safety before heading down solo. Guess what though? The bombs were yellow. You know, the one color that renders a Green Lantern useless. So all he could do was get the hell out of Dodge, leaving Xanshi to an explosive doom. Damn. Coming in number 7, we've got Nightcrawler. Most folks like living life without a gaping hole in their chest, but most folks also can't teleport around in the blink of an eye. It's a tough world for a teleporting superhero, especially one with a drive to help as many people as possible. Nightcrawler, being a genuine hero, puts his life on the line and pays the price. In a future where there are no more mutants thanks to a lovely spell cast by Scarlet Witch, only one hope remains. Incidentally, this hope comes in the form of a mutant girl named Hope. Subtle. When Bastion, a super advanced Sentinel from the future, comes back to kill Hope, Nightcrawler gets in his way. Unfortunately, in the way also means that the Sentinel's arm is right through Nightcrawler's chest. Oops. In a last-ditch effort to keep Hope alive, Nightcrawler uses all of his strength to teleport her away from the murderous machine. Once he completes that task, he runs out of fuel and dies. Coming in number 6, we've got Eric O'Grady, and this one is painful. Eric O'Grady, one of the least lovable Ant-Men, lived his life like a bit of a loser. However, he was still indeed Ant-Man, with all of the powers that came along with the title. Plenty of potential there, that's for sure. And even though he was no saint in life, he was definitely a hero in death. Somehow a child fell into the clutches of the Descendants, a group of artificially intelligent super cyborgs. They may look human and act human, but they definitely aren't. And this is proven when they delve deep into the depths of cruelty and stomp poor Eric to death. He saved the kid, but was unable to come away with his own life. Ouch. After being reduced to a bloody pulp, the cyborgs also took his likeness and created a new Ant-Man, one that would infiltrate his old team and betray them at a critical junction. Coming in number 5, we've got Shazam. What? Shazam? The closest thing to Superman we've got without getting Superman. Who's gonna beat him in a fight? I suppose you can't necessarily count on him to be at 100% mental fortitude though, considering that underneath all of that ancient magic and musculature, there is a 15-year-old with a strong heart. There's a lot that goes on in a teenager's brain that might cause him to make some bad decisions, you know? Like in the case of Shazam versus Harley Quinn, for example. Quinn tosses a hammer at Shazam, who seems to think it's gonna be an easy fight. He has the strength and reflexes to deal with that hammer no problem. And here's the thing, he keeps talking to Quinn after he catches the hammer and doesn't really do anything with the wayward weapon. So what happens next? The hammer explodes. Oh boy. Shazam, you could've won the fight, but you didn't. Coming in number 4, we've got Iron Man. Oh Tony, if only you were better at getting along with people. All throughout Iron Man's history, Tony Stark has been a bit insufferable. Although he's a super genius with a heart of, well, maybe not gold, but something like it, he tends to rub people the wrong way. So even if he manages to defeat plenty of supervillains and keep the world safe, he's still got some other stuff to contend with. From time to time, he'll do something that really makes another hero mad, and that hero might decide to fight Iron Man. And in a lot of these cases, Iron Man doesn't fare all that well. Like, he's lost to pretty much every mainline Avenger at some point, from Spider-Man to the Hulk to Thor to even Black Widow. It's tough when you paint such a big target on your back, but I'm sure he understands. Coming in number 3, we've got Jean Grey. To be immensely powerful. Too bad the world isn't fair and something can always go wrong. Take Jean Grey for example. Telekinetic and telepathic powers beyond compare, a connection with the powerful cosmic entity the Phoenix, a bunch of awesome mutant pals. What could be better? Well, not experiencing a terrifying magnetic aneurysm, I guess. Yeah, that did not turn out too well for poor Jean Grey. After discovering that their new member Zorn was actually Magneto in disguise, the X-Men jumped into action. This did not prevent Magneto from releasing an insane wave of magnetic energy, absolutely wrecking Jean's brain though. Unfortunately, there was nothing she could do about it and she perished almost instantly. Yikes. Coming in number 2, we've got Captain America. Now the tables have turned a little. We talked about Iron Man having a tough time stacking up against his longtime pals a little earlier, now is his time to shine. In Civil War, we see Captain America and Iron Man get into a bit of a kerfuffle, and by bit of a kerfuffle I do mean brutal brawl with all sorts of stuff on the line. It's a crazy fight with plenty of killer moments and momentum swings, but in the end, Tony Stark comes out on top. Damn, Cap. And finally at number 1 we've got Silver Surfer. Not the power cosmic. That's absolutely wild. This Herald of Galactus is one of the most powerful ones going, and has strength beyond compare. He can harness immense energy from the universe and channel it in different ways. On most days, barring insane divine intervention or other heroes becoming ludicrously overpowered, he's unstoppable, a force to be reckoned with. However, there have been entities that fought with Silver Surfer and came out on top. Doesn't happen often, but it isn't totally impossible. There's the wild bit from Marvel Zombies that sees this cosmic power get taken down, and there are even a few non-zombie runs where he's taken down a peg. Adam Warlock knocked him out to prevent Silver Surfer from joining a fight against Thanos. Oh, and at some point Deadpool gained the powers granted to Heralds of Galactus too, which was very interesting. Made for a good fight, that's for sure. So even the most powerful beings can be defeated from time to time, eh?
Kicking off the list at number 10. Deadpool. The cancelled Deadpool 3 movie would have been pretty amazing over at Fox. We would have seen Logan and Wade on a road trip from hell. It would have been much better than the last time we saw them on screen together. Yeah. But in the comics, Deadpool and Logan have, of course, bumped heads, like in Cable and Deadpool issue 44, for example. The two are fighting at a Hydra base, and Wolverine straight up impales Wade to the wall. It's a fun comic. Wade spends the first half with his head off, just getting kicked around like a soccer ball. It's all fun and games. But finally, Logan keeps Wade still once he shoves his claws through him and into the wall. That ought to get your attention sometimes. Number 9, the Hulk. Going back to volume 1 of the Incredible Hulk issue 340 titled Vicious Circle, we find the Hulk and Rick Jones out in a blizzard. They're trying to drive, but it seems like they're only going in circles. Meanwhile, the Hulk is going nuts. He needed to get out of there. Like when you have to stretch your legs on a road trip, I get it, right? So he blasts the roof right off, and the X-Men just happen to be in the neighborhood flying by. The Hulk almost hits them mid-air after he jumps off. I would say good thing he didn't hit them, but he continued flying by and then hit a Pan Am passenger plane, so it's like, maybe he should have hit them then. So the X-Men were busy handling that, obviously, while on the ground, the Hulk landed and caused more damage. Wolverine tracked the beast down, and believe it or not, the Hulk almost snuck up on him. He couldn't catch the Hulk's scent, so it was really dangerously close. Wolverine popped his claws, turned, and then sliced the Hulk's arm, and they both looked at each other. And Wolverine, he walked away at this point. He retracted his claws. He's like, hey, remember who you are, Logan. Remember what you're doing. You're the bigger man here. And he's like, breathes, then he walks away, and then the Hulk jumps out at him and then starts it all over again. He thunderclaps Wolverine's ears to smithereens. His enhanced senses, this for sure, got the ball rolling, got him pretty upset. After this, naturally, there's mayhem. They take turns beating the crap out of each other until the fight was eventually at an end because it was broken up. But Wolverine for sure won this round. He tried walking away initially. He's the victim here, folks, don't forget that. Number 8, Spider-Man. In Spider-Man vs. Wolverine, released in 1987, we see Peter slinging across the city. He's trying to snap some pics for the Bugle. He's looking for his light, trying to get that angle right, but all of a sudden, trouble calls. He hears a young woman scream, so he zips down and he finds the owners of a grocery store dead on the spot. So he ends up following that lead, and it brings him right into Logan's path. Now Logan has already been doing his own plan at this point, and then in comes this kid wearing pajamas, shooting webs at people. So the two heroes now have no choice but to go loud and proud. They both fight off criminals together, and it's a fun time. But once they realize they're too late, Charlemagne had already gotten there. There's lots of bodies, so Logan naturally blames Spider-Man for ruining the whole thing. He's like, if it wasn't for you, this would not have happened in the first place. Pretty deep words. Spider-Man fires back though. He's not taking any of this. The two walk separate ways, but it's not over yet. Wolverine's meditating, he's feeling bad. Spider-Man's in bed, tossing and turning. He tries to take out Charlie himself, but Peter stops him. Well, he tries to. They fight in a graveyard for a few pages, but when Peter turns around to hit Wolverine one last time, he accidentally hits Charlie instead. I'm counting this as a loss because Peter wanted to fight. He engaged and he swung without looking. And now he can't get that image out of his head, and neither can we. Number 7, the X-Men. Okay, when I say the X-Men, I mean like all of them. Big yikes. Old Man Logan, one of the best storylines of all time, also one of the darkest. In a grim future where supervillains are taking over the planet, Mysterio pulls out perhaps one of his best tricks, if I do say so myself. If this happened in the MCU, kids would throw up gummy worms. They would be mortified. Mysterio tricks Logan into fighting the X-Men. He makes Logan believe that they're all supervillains, so Logan kills them all. He feels horrible, I mean obviously, so he runs off into the woods and he tries to take himself out. That's how bad he felt, but he vowed to never pull the claws out again after that didn't work. Even Santa Claus 2, starring Tim Allen, he's like, I can't do it. I made a vow, I can't do it. Number 6, Wolverine. Hey, question YouTube, if you fought yourself, who would win? In Logan, we got to witness Wolverine fight another Wolverine, but in the Age of Ultron comic, it was actually much darker, much more brain scratching at least. In Age of Ultron, the comic, we get to see this dark future where the Avengers are getting whooped. Ultron is using Vision as a conduit from the future, like the world's most painful game of broken telephone. The Avengers don't really see a way to get to Ultron and stop him, so they send Sue Storm and Logan back in time to find a solution. Now Logan wants to just straight up kill Hank Pym, just to make sure Ultron is never created. But in doing so, this opens up a dark alternate future, so when they go back, this new timeline that they've now created made the Kree-Skrull War move to Earth. So they run into the defenders of that timeline and also Logan of that timeline. Wolverine versus Wolverine, what a time. The time traveling Wolverine beat alternate Wolverine, so everybody wins. Or loses, I'm not sure in this case. My head hurts, to be honest. Let's move on. Number 5, Teen Mutant. He doesn't have a name, so we'll just refer to him as Mr. Teen Mutant Boy, whatever you want to call him. He doesn't have a name because he's only around for one issue, spoiler alert, despite having an insane power. Let's talk about it. Ultimate X-Men issue 41. Now at first glance, he looks like a regular kid. He's got posters on his wall, one of which is Wolverine with the caption, "Be different," which is pretty amazing given how his day is about to go down. He wakes up, he's ready for school, he's looking for breakfast because he doesn't know how to make food. Apparently his mom is like the only one that can make him breakfast. So his mom's nowhere to be seen, so he doesn't eat. Only a pile of her clothes remain on the ground, and he's like, okay, so he goes to school. He doesn't call the police like a psychopath. If you ever see this, definitely call for help, absolutely. He continues on, he goes to school, but on the way there, he sees a collar on the ground on the sidewalk, but no animal. Again, more articles of clothing just strewn about. But then finally, he sees people. Okay, he's not going crazy. This is a good sign. We have real, like live people, lovely. But I bet he wished that that wasn't the case. So he has this fantastic ability where if you're just near this guy, you don't survive to talk about it. He hears it from the guy in the poster himself, the Be Different guy, Wolverine. He finds him ducking out in a cave and breaks the news to him. What happened was when he hit puberty, he developed a specific mutation that radiates a series of toxins and acid-like poisons, and it basically wipes out any organic tissue. It turns it into vapor. So the amount of people that he ended up accidentally killing that day was in the 260s number, yeah. So he doesn't last for long because, well, Wolverine came out of that cave all alone. You do the math. Imagine your idol coming into a cave to kill you. It's not bad, I don't know, could be worse. If Hugh Jackman killed me, I'd be like, okay. That's not bad. Number 4, Lobo. We've talked about comic crossovers quite a bit here on Top 10 Nerd. They're a blast, I mean, for the most part. DC vs. Marvel showed us some pretty entertaining battles. I mean, we got to see Captain America vs. Batman, Spider-Man vs. Superboy, and of course, Lobo vs. Wolverine. The third issue out of the 4, we find Logan bad-mouthing Lobo's favorite bar. Logan is talking smack and Lobo interrupts him with a nice chain to the chest. That ought to hurt. Wolverine ends up walking out of the bar smoking a cigar. Also, he's alive. How did this happen? We're not sure how this one ended up going down as most of this fight happened behind the bar, but to kill an immortal man, good on you, James. Number 3, Jean Grey. This next one played out in live action in everybody's favorite X-Men movie, X-Men The Last Stand. So good. It's not. Showed us Wolverine taking out Jean Grey in a mercy type way in order to stop the Dark Phoenix from causing mayhem. Now this of course went down in the comics as well, and it was much better on page than on screen. You can find it in New X-Men issue 148. Wolverine is telling Jean that Scott still loves her, although he's just maybe a bit confused at this moment. Jean is weak. She's saying she can't breathe, that she has this terrible feeling that she feels scared and weird, that there's voices inside of her head. She knows she's dying. It's a really sad part in the comics. And Wolverine can't take the pain on himself, but he can take the pain away for now. Hugh Jackman is a wonderful actor, don't get me wrong, so is Famke Janssen, but the comic is way harder than the movie. This whole scene here gets my throat that little like, I get a little tight throat feeling. So let's move on from really sad to really gross, shall we? Let's finish off like that. Number 2, the Hulk. Mark Millar's Old Man Logan. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Let's talk about it some more, it's good. It begins in volume 3 of Wolverine on issue 66 to be specific, and this is a future where supervillains have won. They did it! Good job, supervillains, nice. Hulk and She-Hulk had kids, the Hulklings, who Not nice, we don't want to talk about that. They would beat the crap out of you if you didn't pay rent, basically. Everybody had their own territory at this point, so Logan had to pay up. So Hulk Gang ended up taking out Logan's family because they were bored. They're also a little messed up in the head if you didn't already put that together. So Logan heads back and sees the Hulk, and he's like, you know what, no more games, no more talking, I'm here to get this done. Logan gets Banner right through the old chest plate, but we all know what happens next. He hulks out, and then he eats Logan. If you can't beat him, you gotta swallow him. That's the rule, right? Now you'd think this would be the end of it, but that's not what this list is. Now is it? No, you already know it's about to change. That's when Logan pops out from inside Banner, the old C-section from hell. So basically, if you eat Wolverine, just know that it's coming out one of any way he wants, essentially. And finally, coming in at number 1, everybody. What if Wolverine killed everybody, the entire Marvel Universe? Could he do it? Would he do it? Yes and yes. Written by Jimmy Robinson, released in 2006, this What If is based on Mark Millar's Enemy of the State series, taking place in Wolverine Volume 3 from issues 20 to 25. Now in that story, Wolverine is used to try and hunt down the Avengers, the X-Men, just everybody. The Hand and the Hydra were using him as a weapon. Baron von Strucker used him to steal documents from Reed Richards. It was the whole plan, right? It was a whole thing. But S.H.I.E.L.D. was able to capture him and heal him. In this What If, we see a world where Wolverine kept working for Hydra and the Hand. In this alternate timeline, everybody gets wiped out. Nick Fury is telling Cap and the others, I mean, sure, Hydra and the Hand is a concern, but like, we need to stop Wolverine first, like ASAP. That should be the first thing on our list right now. Thing is, Wolverine kills Spider-Man. He kills Iron Fist, he takes off Captain America's arm and leg, because whenever Wolverine is in trouble, Hydra just teleports him away. You can't really hit him. Susan Storm tried to make this force field trap that kept Logan in the same spot, with Magneto helping out as well, but while they were planning that, Wolverine snuck in and attacked them all through the floors, so everybody gets messed up there as well. Magneto and Sue Storm, gone and gone. Captain America gets claws in the head. Also gone. So Kitty Pryde phases her hand into Logan's head and kills him that way. You gotta end the list on a horrible note, you know, because why not? Number 10, Deadpool. We'll kick this list off on a messy, red, bloody good note. Two red guys slashing each other up, both are kind of insane. Let's talk about it. Deadpool vs. Carnage 2014. Right, so after Cletus Cassidy escaped a prison, the Merc with a Mouth was the only one crazy enough to track him down. In order to track down a maniac, you kind of low-key have to be one. You gotta think like them, right? Wade thinks he can figure him out, and he also thinks that a rocket launcher can take down Carnage. Kind of a fool if you ask me. I mean, in all fairness, fire and sound waves, they work, but it's Carnage we're talking about, a little bit stronger than our Venom guy. Wade gets a closer look, and although he likes guns, swords, and the occasional weed whacker, he thinks one of his grenades ought to do something. One of the many that he has hidden in crevices and places that we don't talk about. And it does, for a page. Carnage lays there, sans head for a moment or two, but backup arrives in the form of Shriek. Deadpool then gets his ass handed to him, and Wade gets impaled over and over and over again, with the last hit practically being the size of a tree just going through his body. Horrible. And then in the end, Deadpool needed a symbiote upgrade himself just to keep the fight fair. Number 9, Spider-Man. Of course we have to talk about Spider-Man getting his ass whooped as well. It's no surprise that Peter is on the top of Carnage's naughty list, and in Carnage, It's a Wonderful Life, Dr. Kafka and Security Chief Jameson get a glimpse inside Carnage's mind, and it's literally just a room full of Spider-Man being tortured. That's all he thinks about, just different versions of him being tortured in different horrible ways. I think about like candy corn and stuff, I don't know, I guess I'm normal. The guy's twisted, even in his head, his actions are brutal, but daydreaming aside, when Carnage does get his real life hands on Spider-Man, it's so much worse. The Ultimate Comics introduced Carnage in Ultimate Spider-Man 61, and just one issue later, Carnage figured out the best way to hurt Spider-Man was to attack his heart, like Willem Dafoe yelled in the first Spider-Man movie. And before we continue on with this list, if you want to go ahead and give this video a thumbs up just to get some good spirits involved, you know, get it kind of out of the grim, dark tone that we're sticking with for most of this, that would be great. It helps our studio out quite a bit. You guys are awesome. Let's get right back to this list. Number 8, Man-Wolf. In Volume 2 of Carnage, Issue 2, Special Agent Claire Dixon of the FBI assembled this task force to try and hopefully put an end to Carnage's madness. She has Eddie Brock to help out, but this time around, he's the host of the Toxin Symbiote, and together they use a woman named Manuela Calderon as bait to bring out Cletus. See, she was the only survivor from his last rendezvous, and by rendezvous I mean massacre. Honestly, I wouldn't agree to that. Kudos to her, it's pretty brave. So she lured him into a mine shaft and then successfully cornered and trapped Carnage. Now what? The task force is also trapped in there with a man named John Jameson, but John's not around at the moment. No, instead Cletus now has to deal with the Man-Wolf. Must have been a full moon tonight. A lot of fur, a lot of blood laying around after this one. They're just throwing each other around this mine shaft. It's pretty grim. They're smashing their heads into rocks. It's kind of cool. The fact that it's a werewolf fighting Carnage, I mean, you either love it or you don't. Things suddenly take a turn when Carnage grabs that gemstone around John's neck, the stone that allows him to become Man-Wolf in the first place, and after that he turns back into a regular naked dude. He's dizzy, he's exhausted, and he's in, of course, immense pain. He lost his footing and then after fell from a cliff. He was so close to taking him down, but you know, had to go turn into a wolf. Classic. Did you know Jupiter has 52 moons? If you were a werewolf on Jupiter, you'd be so busy. Number 7, Silver Surfer. In the Amazing Spider-Man issue 430, once again Cletus was running around the city just attacking bystanders, throwing desks, giving people a finger, just anything horrible, being the worst ever. Luckily, the Silver Surfer was in the cosmic neighborhood and got to offer a helping silver hand to Spider-Man. The symbiote sees the Silver Surfer and it's intrigued, so much so that it leaves Cletus naked again on the street in order to bond with Silver Surfer. He sees all that power and he's like, I'll take some of that please. He then becomes Carnage Cosmic and I gotta admit he looks pretty sweet. In terms of hosts, that's a pretty high bar to set right there. Silver Surfer ended up handling him, you know, getting him out, but honestly, I'm kind of disappointed. Carnage on a surfboard, it's pretty intriguing, sign me up. Number 6, Ghost Rider. Alejandra Jones first appeared in Marvel Comics in Ghost Rider Volume 7. She was sold as a child and ended up in Nicaragua where she trained in a temple to solely become the next Ghost Rider. When Absolute Carnage goes down, she's trying to now protect her village, but things get crazy when Carnage rips out her spine and then eats it. Now normally that would be the end of it, like that's enough to be, you know, considered a beatdown, an awful beatdown. And for Jones, that was the end of it, but when Carnage ate that spirit spine, he now obtained the spirit of vengeance temporarily, which is just ultimate madness. I kind of like the way he looks though. I mean, you know, completely evil and spine eating aside. I like it. Number 5, the Mercury team. The more fighters we have, the better chance we have, right? When the US Army put together a task force called the Mercury Team, they thought they had a chance because each member was a soldier from a unique military branch. And also, they each got to use a symbiote for select missions. That ought to help out a little bit. Like say when Carnage is loose in Colorado, time to call these guys in. The 4 symbiotes they use are Lasher, Phage, Agony, and Riot. And yes, they also have a symbiote attack dog, which is just amazing. Still cute. Goopy, but cute. When they aren't being manned, they're to remain on ice, just waiting to be used again. They sound like the only chance to win here, but when Carnage finds their secret base first, with all those frozen suits and symbiotes, well, what's the point after that? This was the last we see of the team, obviously, but those 4 symbiotes bonding with Wade, you gotta admit, that's a pretty great deal. Number 4, Nova. One day you're skateboarding, looking for your missing father, and then all of a sudden you fall off your board and wake up to Rocket Raccoon and Gamora. You know, those classic days. Yep, the duo wake him up and say they're also looking for his father and his black Nova helmet. So now this kid takes up the Nova title, works with the Avengers, the New Warriors, and the Champions, completely stepped up to bat. He was 15 only, kid was killing it. And in the Avengers X-Men Axis storyline, our heroes and villains switch sides. Their moral compass completely flips. So afterwards, when Carnage goes back to psycho mode, he needs to now soak up more evil. He's got to make up and remind himself who he is. So he goes to Sam's school and then makes a mess there. Horrible. Those poor kids, Nova fights him off, but the fight is more of a tie than anything. They just both kind of do this. Nova's he's not looking too good here. Number 3, Venom. Okay, we're finally seeing Venom and Carnage go at it on the big screen next month. Hopefully, I'm fully convinced Woody Harrelson is going to steal the show. I'm so excited, but how will the fight end? In the comics, Venom and Carnage have had some serious blowouts. Will Venom eat Carnage like a midnight snack? Will Spider-Man have to come in and take Venom's side, singing Strangers in the Night, of course, while they do it? The beatdowns go back and forth for Venom and Carnage for the most part, but one of the best storylines for me was, of course, Absolute Carnage. Carnage's connection to Null makes him this godly version of himself. And he gets beat so hard in the first issue that Venom is the one to suggest leaving. He's like, hey, I can fix you, but we have to leave like now, like ASAP Rocky, we gotta go. Number 2, Miles, Human Torch, and more. In Amazing Spider-Man issue 7099, we see Red Goblin on the cover. The lovely combo comes to life when Osborn gets his hands on the Carnage symbiote. In their first battle, Spider-Man lost, but afterwards Peter called forward some help, some backup. He had the assistance this time around of Miles Morales, Human Torch, Clash, and Silk. Usually the Human Torch would be enough to get some damage done, but with both villains now with their powers combined for Red Goblin, it was much harder. It was almost useless to blast fire at him. They all got their butts handed to them. Nobody was prepared for this level of power. But luckily, Anti-Venom came in to throw some hands back because Red Goblin was seconds away from finishing all of them off. Even after Flash had healed them, they didn't spring back up and start kicking people in the neck again. They were down for the count. It wasn't looking good. They were no longer a formidable team at all. And finally, number 1, the Avengers. Speaking of teams getting their ass kicked, somebody as big and as bad as Carnage, who else to call but Earth's mightiest? In Carnage USA, Carnage has the ability to create clones of himself. Now he can use multiple hosts, and he takes over a town at one point. It's really stressful. The team heads to the town to figure out a solution, so we got Spider-Man, Cap, Logan, The Thing, and Hawkeye. Everybody ends up getting the symbiote treatment, resulting in one of the coolest but scariest situations ever. Spider-Man tried to warn the team, but they did their Avengers thing and rushed in as a group to kick some ass. Oops, everybody gets hit except for, you guessed it, Spider-Man. So now it's up to Peter to save the entire team of Avengers in Carnage USA. What a ride, you must check it out.